In my past life, I was just an extra who donated all my organs to the female lead, helping to build her image as a truly kind and virtuous person. Because my body's contamination rate was low, the female lead righteously declared, "You've been leeching off Alden's family for over a decade. Now it's time to repay them." My parents were tricked by my brother and this woman into searching for me in a high contamination zone, where they ultimately died from full body necrosis, even though we did nothing. It's as if we've offended some malevolent spirit. After death, I drifted in the air watching the female lead simps throw themselves at her one after another, ultimately pushing her into the arms of the most powerful man. "Ophelia, I've finally waited for you." Upon hearing these words, I miraculously reincarnated. The first thing I did was steal her golden finger. The 50-degree heat made me dizzy, having not gone outside for so long. I put on my mother's protective suit and ran outside the shanty town. On the first day of my rebirth, I learned that 3 days later, the woman named Ophelia would be brought back by the two strongest brothers of the shanty town, the Saul family. When everyone returned in the evening, in her past life, she reportedly fainted under a few pothose plants and was found by Jackson when he was urinating, while drifting in the air, though sometimes visible and sometimes not. This allowed me to discover the female lead's biggest secret. There was a broken bowl at the spot where the female lead was found, which Jackson assumed belonged to her, so he took it back with them. Later, when the female lead accidentally cut her finger, she surprisingly discovered a space inside. Having observed it countless times, she would take out some pollution-free fruits and grains from it. The sultry air made it hard for me to breathe when I went outside. Going out to pick was extremely exhausting. Was I really this selfish in my past life? My parents, heartbroken by my frail health, never let me go out. Remembering the scene of my parents rotting away in death made my heart ache again. After resting for a while, I slowly made my way outside again. There were 2 locations with pothose plants. After checking one, I found it overgrown with thorny weeds. Another spot was further away, where tall green vines reached over 3 meters high. I searched carefully and indeed felt something hard beneath a thick layer of soft fallen leaves. Brushing aside the leaves, I found a chipped ceramic bowl with a crack at the bottom, but there seemed to be more. Digging further into the soil, I uncovered a lid that had broken into 2 pieces. When placed together, they appeared to be a matching set. I quickly left after getting the things. Soon I returned, laying the pulled thorny grass over the gaps on the ground. By the time I got home, I was drenched in sweat with a flushed face. I lay flat to recover, as if I'd done it countless times before. Every time I make something for the house, my body seems unable to bear the load. Just lie down for a while and it'll be fine. I've long grown accustomed to my worn-out body. Finally catching my breath, I unwrapped the bundled item. With a decisive motion, I made a deep cut. Blood flowed from the lid to the base of the cup, instantly absorbed. In an instant, I saw a milky white spring bubbling with steam. My entire body was sucked in, and my underdeveloped heart was slowly nourished, gradually becoming more vibrant. My originally pale skin became as fair and rosy as rice cake. Gradually, I seemed to hear more and more voices speaking. "Mom and Dad are coming back. I need to get out. Get out." The whole body is completely naked, clothes gone. I quickly found one of my only 2 outfits. This one is half new. I've always been reluctant to wear it. While getting dressed, I suddenly noticed my hair was incredibly silky smooth. How can this be? In this era, who isn't just a young lass with yellow hair? I directly took out scissors and cut my long hair into a crew cut, storing the cut hair in my space. However, the hair melted away instantly. I was startled. My face turned pale, but since my parents had already returned, I had no choice but to go out. Celeste's complexion looks much better today. The moment my parents entered the room, they began examining me, seeing their still living parents before them. Finally unable to hold back, I hugged them tightly. "Oh dear, what's wrong? You got a haircut today. Why are you crying? My precious, what happened?" "It's nothing, really, Mom. I just missed you both so much. I cut my hair because washing it was too troublesome." Pinching my precious one's little cheeks, I discovered they had a delightfully springy texture. "So what if it's cut?" Still crying over it, hearing Dad's laughter. All 3 of them started laughing. Another figure walked in from outside. It was the older brother, tall in stature, standing a full head taller than Dad, somewhat quiet in personality, but also quite handsome with double eyelids, a high nose bridge, and thin lips that looked very attractive when he smiled. 3 nights later, as expected, the shantytown became lively. Jackson and Bo found a woman together. I saw her, Snow White. 2, hiss, hid her away, you bet. Though I heard the injuries were severe, rescued from the spiked grass, 3 days were enough to figure out the uses of the spirit spring, healing and purification. Only I can enter it alive. Anything else that goes and disappears. The spring's water can be taken out, and highly polluted substances become less contaminated the longer they soak in it. Though I don't have the protagonist's spatial ability from my past life, I'm still deeply grateful to have this. Moreover, The best news was that I had actually awakened a psychic-type superpower. Although this ability was still weak and prolonged use caused severe headaches, it made observing my brother and Ophelia much more convenient. However, for 2 months they had almost no interaction, until one day when Ophelia went to fetch water, and Alden unexpectedly carried 2 buckets for her. It's worth noting that Alden, as a brother, wasn't particularly warm toward family members at home either. He usually ignored me. And even in my previous life, I knew my own brother didn't like me. Just a few days after Alden and Ophelia met, I saw Ophelia arrive at our doorstep. "Is this Alden's house? You must be his sister. So pretty." When no one responded, Ophelia walked in uninvited, carrying a small piece of dried meat in her hand. "Alden helped me a lot before. This time I mainly came to thank him." Alden's father looked at the dried meat and thought this girl was crazy. Did his son save her life or something? To deserve such an extravagant gift, everyone was looking at my brother. Though he showed no expression, I could keenly sense his mood had improved compared to earlier. Taking Ophelia out the door, I quietly followed behind. As long as I maintained a distance within 20 meters, I could perceive all the surrounding environment. "Alden, am I causing you trouble? Take the meat out carefully. Make sure the Saul brothers don't find out. I just wanted to thank you. No one has ever been this kind to me before." "Alden, wow, when did these two get so close?" Alden comforted him for a while, his thin lips tightly sealed. "Is Alden the biological child of the Alden family?" "Why do you ask that?" Alden frowned. I just noticed you're the one doing all the work at home, and it pains me. Also, I saw that uncle, aunt, and your sister all have single eyelids, but you have double eyelids." Alden narrowed his eyes, looking at Ophelia with intense pressure. "Is there something wrong?" "Alden, I'm just worried about you. 2 single-eyelid parents absolutely cannot have a double-eyelid child. I can't say for sure about other things, but this, how could I possibly be joking?" Ophelia's tear-filled eyes looked at Alden, full of heartache. "My eldest brother isn't my parents' biological child. This is a possibility I've never considered before. In the post-apocalyptic world with limited knowledge and scarce resources, identifying edible food and wilderness survival skills are the fundamental knowledge that wasteland dwellers can master. But just because they're not blood relatives, does that justify exterminating their entire family? My heart is filled with sorrow. These days I've been trying to pour water for my parents to drink. The amount isn't much, but they still seem more energetic. I've been observing these 2 more closely. The food Alden brings back is getting less and less, sometimes even returning empty-handed. During these times, Ophelia is often out searching for food too, living at the mercy of nature. It's normal not to find food sometimes. Mom would then give her own portion to Alden. "I see Celeste's health has improved recently. Let her go out to search too." Both parents looked at their son in surprise, not expecting him to say that. Mom immediately objected. "Your sister is in poor health. She used to struggle with speaking and walking, so there's no need to discuss this matter. Your father and I will leave early tomorrow." None of the 4 spoke. When we returned to our rooms at night, Alden's gaze in the spiritual perspective frightened me once again. It's that look from the previous life. What does he want to do? The next day, Ophelia came knocking after everyone had left the house. "Celeste, I'm your big sister Ophelia, your eldest brother's good friend. I found a great spot for picking raspberries. Is your big brother home?" If I hadn't just seen them go their separate ways, I would have believed such a sincere question. "Everyone has gone out." "What bad timing." "Oh dear, I just picked 6 the other day and exchanged them for 60 points, which was enough to feed the family for quite a while." "Are you Alden's little sister?" Ophelia's face seemed to show she had been struggling with this for a long time. "Since you're Alden's little sister, then it's no problem. Come with me. It's not far. My parents won't let me go out." Without another glance at Ophelia, he shut the door firmly, trying to harm me again. In her past life with the spatial ability, Ophelia wasn't treated this way. She was practically the goddess of the shanty town, revered by everyone. Alden didn't meet Ophelia until half a year later, and Ophelia had never visited the Alden family. Ophelia, deprived of her spatial abilities, lacks the most basic means of survival in this world, food. She has no choice but to follow the main group in search of sustenance. Now that the two have met so much earlier, none of the events from their memories have occurred. Without distributing food to the shantytown residents, Ophelia won't gain their support. Without her spatial powers, what schemes can Ophelia possibly use to harm others? But why would she come looking for me? It seems I need to enhance my supernatural abilities. Otherwise, being completely powerless, it would be difficult to deal with these two. Sure enough, Alden looked at himself with poor eyesight when he got home. This Ophelia is indeed no good. The two must have conspired something again. Without any space left, Ophelia wants to squeeze food from the wasteland residents. Dream on. Unless Ophelia offers something in return, but obviously she won't. leaving only Alden as the big sucker. Watching Alden eating dinner, I couldn't help but feel there was something suspicious about him. 3. They really think I'm easy to mess with, even though I'm resting at home with my heart slowly recovering under the spiritual spring's nourishment. Lurking in the shadows doesn't take much effort. During this time, I've learned that Ophelia has exceptional time management skills. But even the most careful person makes mistakes eventually, right? And if accidents don't happen naturally, they can always be arranged. A few days later, big news broke. Ophelia was caught fooling around with someone by Jackson, who carried her back home, after which there was quite a commotion in their house. It took half a month before Ophelia found another chance to visit Alden. Alden, those two are beasts. They fabricated all these stories just to force themselves upon me. Alden's face turned ashen, and as Ophelia looked at the man, her tears began to fall. Alden, you're the only one in my heart. I just wish I could see you one more time. I know I'm no longer worthy of you, but why must fate treat me this way? The low, whimpering sound was heartbreaking to hear. Sure enough, Alden, who had been held, was embraced back. All right, stop crying. But no matter how they tried to console, the tears wouldn't stop, leaving no choice but to, watching the two embracing in my consciousness. I covered my eyes in shock, yet the scene didn't pause. Even when my feet grew numb from standing, the two still showed no sign of stopping. There are volunteers collecting medicine in the city. I'll bring Celeste out, and then my parents will only have me as their child. You won't need to worry about not getting along with my sister when you marry into the family. I listened as those cold, emotionless words came from Alden's mouth, and my heart trembled uncontrollably again. In my past life, I was just given a blood draw in exchange for 10 nutrient packs, an offer no one in the shantytown would refuse. It was his plan all along, so it was him. This way, we'll have enough credits to buy a gun, Jackson, and Bo. I'll make sure these two never appear before you again. The two lovebirds lingered affectionately for quite some time before reluctantly parting ways. Watching Alden return home and silently eat the dried leaves given by his mother as usual, suddenly, I, who had always been timid, wanted to snatch the dried leaves from his mouth. Remembering my past life's guilt towards my brother for not being able to go out to find food, I fought to do all the household chores myself, not letting this brother lift a finger. Thinking about the plan he mentioned to Ophelia, want to shoot me with a gun. Let's see who shoots whom. Thanks for providing such a great idea for me. Look at this harmful method. Definitely not my real brother. What a scumbag. The next day, Alden left early in the morning, and I stopped my parents as they were about to go out. Mom and Dad, Alden isn't your biological child, is he? Mom stopped putting on the hazmat suit when she heard this. What nonsense are you talking? Don't spout such things in front of your brother. I dramatically recounted Alden's plan to harm me, embellishing it with details about having my organs harvested in my past life. I also mentioned how Ophelia had previously asked me to go pick raspberries with her. Mom, Dad, I know this is hard to accept, it is for me too, but I personally heard Alden and Ophelia saying these things near Uncle Brand's haystack. Mom trembled all over, too angry to speak. I knew it, bad bamboo shoots can't grow into good bamboo. I won't allow him near our daughter anymore. After all, he was the son they'd raised for years. Dad trembled as he held me. We never mistreated him. How did it come to this? The parents revealed Alden's origins. He is the son of an old friend from father's childhood, with both families sharing ancestral ties and the older generation maintaining close relations. Right after birth, Alden's father was killed by a monstrous beast, while his mother died in childbirth after naming him and entrusting him to others. Mother initially didn't want to adopt Alden, only intending to occasionally look after and support him. Because after Alden's parents' family situation improved, the two households had already lost contact. But how could the wolves and tigers of the slums leave a golden nugget in the hands of a mere infant, under the certification of the inner city officials? With Alden's mother entrusting her orphan to them, the Alden family parents took on the responsibility of raising Alden. The cost was this very house. At that time, it aroused the envy of many. Additionally, it turns out the Alden family had another house. When Alden was a child and ran a high fever, seemingly on the verge of death, Alden's father gritted his teeth and sold it to buy medicine from the inner city. However, they never coveted anything and were saving money to build another house for their daughter. This current house would still be left to Alden, planned to be transferred to him when he marries. What a sin. Raising someone who would harm my daughter. We must move out. I can't rest easy with such a viper by our side. All right, today I've laid all my cards on the table about my background. This house will be left to him. After saying this, Dad seemed to age many years at once. After all these years, he had already come to regard Alden as his own child. Mom still wanted to object, but ultimately said nothing. All the household provisions were counted and organized. For a moment, I didn't know how to offer comfort. My parents act swiftly and decisively. For a moment, I truly felt inferior to the older generation in handling matters. In the evening, as expected, Alden returned empty-handed again. Dad even made a hearty serving of mashed potatoes, and surprisingly, there was also meat broth. It was also the first time Alden showed a surprised expression. At the dinner table, Dad personally distributed the food, placing the largest bowl of meat soup in front of Alden. "Alden, you're already 18 years old this year. Back when you were born, you were as tiny as a kitten. Who would have thought you'd grow into such a fine young man?" The whole family watched as Alden's father spoke, until tears streamed down Dad's face. Mom was the same, except she never looked at Alden again. "You're grown now. It's time you knew about your origins. The family house will be left to you. It was originally your father's, and the small annex built later will also be given to you. The Alden family's house, you should remember it from when you were old enough, was sold to buy medicine when you had a high fever. There wasn't much grain to begin with, so we'll give you 1/5 of it. As for the work points, you've been earning your own food since you could fend for yourself. Your mother and I are getting older and still have to support your younger sister. Building a simple house won't leave much left. We won't take anything out. But we'll give you an additional 1 gene of dried meat. You're grown up now. It's time to find a wife. It won't be easy for your sister to get married either if this continues. Let's settle it this way." The four at the dining table remained silent, the atmosphere heavy. "Then let's do as Dad says." No one expected Alden to agree so quickly. Glancing at his father, he found him stunned too. He just stopped crying and began to eat. The next day, all the belongings in the house were moved out. Mom was so angry she didn't even leave a single pot behind. Building a house here is quite fast as long as you have enough points. Bought an empty plot and set up a plastic shed nearby to live in temporarily. The house isn't big, but the warehouse is quite spacious. These past few days, I've increased the supply of Spirit spring water. Just as the house was nearing completion, Dad shared some good news. He's awakened a fire-based superpower. I instinctively glanced around. No sign of Alden's deadpan face. "Perfect, really, honey." A wisp of white smoke curled from Dad's fingertip, followed by a fleeting spark. "But this is still worth celebrating at home." After discussing, they agreed to keep it secret for now. They'll wait until their supernatural abilities grow stronger for self-preservation before considering jobs for supernaturals. The family of 3 happily added meat broth to their meal. However, shortly after the house was built, they saw Ophelia arriving. "Celeste, I heard that donating 1 tube of blood in the city can get you 10 nutrient solutions. Do you want to go?" After hearing this, my kidneys ached. "Still not letting yourself go? Why, these past few days I've been so happy. Why come and disturb me? My Celeste isn't in good health, so we won't be going. Mom's at home." Immediately shuts the door in refusal. Ophelia smiled and left. Such a vile thing still dares to harm my daughter." Seeing Mom's hands trembling with anger, I hugged her tightly. Recently, Dad's fire-based supernatural abilities have improved rapidly. In the evening, Dad brought back a handgun. "This is for Celeste's self-defense. Your mom will stay home to take care of you from now on. We're only raising 1 child now, so we're quite comfortable." Even before Dad became an ability user, he was already a skilled hunter. Now he's even more formidable. He's just playing it extra safe under mine and Mom's nagging. Otherwise his harvests would be even greater. The bigger surprise was that my psychic energy, besides detecting surroundings, also developed a psychic spike ability. However, when I tried to use it on Ophelia, it inexplicably failed. Damn it, is this what they call the protagonist halo from my past life? Moreover, through my unintentional probing, a rumor has suddenly been circulating in the shantytown these days that my family manages to find plenty of food every day. Such rumors can be deadly. "Celeste, is it just your dad who goes out to find food for your family? That's really impressive, supporting the whole household all by himself." Old lady Ophelia from next door was peeking around the doorway with her top-heavy grandson in tow. Mom originally planned to take me to pick some sour pears today, but seeing the looks from people around, she couldn't help feeling irritated. My husband works from dawn to dusk every day, still paying off points. Earlier, we divided the property with our adopted son and left the house to him. Now, we're planning to take my daughter out to find something to eat. Our daughter has been frail since childhood. As everyone knows, there's just no other way. After saying this, Mom closed the door and took me out. Heartless bastard. Don't let me find out who's spreading rumors about our family. Today I'll make sure you accidentally show off your powers. Those people better think twice. In the wilderness, arriving at the sour pear tree Dad recently found, still carrying a gun at the waist, after searching for a while, found about 20 sour pears, each weighing about 1 gene, 500 G. Honestly, we've been really lucky. Scanning the surroundings with psychic power, I spotted several suspicious men. One face in particular was often seen talking to Ophelia. With psychic abilities, my gun aiming became remarkably accurate. I secretly told Mom about the 7 bad guys nearby. The machete in her hand seemed eager for action. Leave your belongings behind. Huh, boss, it's two women. You're quite young and tender. The leader's malicious eyes sized at me and my mother up and down. I raised my head and fired a shot at the leader, then fired 5 more consecutive shots, each hitting the target. There was one lucky one who ran far away, but still got shot in the chest. My mom pulled me toward the base, as there was absolutely no chance these people could survive. In the wasteland, never underestimate anyone, whether men, women, or even children. Before reaching the shantytown, we saw people returning in panic. The gunshots were deafening, terrifying everyone and likely to trigger mutated beasts into a frenzy. Back home now, continuing to observe, Ophelia's simps may have become less sophisticated, but they still exist, drifting between different men. She still occasionally makes time for secret rendezvous with Alden. After observing the timing patterns and leaving signals for Jackson and Bo, it was time to catch Ophelia and Alden in their affair. This time they really stirred up a hornet's nest, caught in the act. 3 grown men mixing it up in a 2-against-1 brawl. Alden fought fiercely, and surprisingly, Jackson and Bo couldn't overpower him. Of course, Ophelia didn't return to the Saul family. Alden compensated for Ophelia's living expenses at the Saul family, and thus the feud was officially born. However, what they didn't expect was that the very next day, the two of them came to visit Mom and Dad. They thought Dad would invite them to stay for dinner, but unexpectedly, when Alden started calling them Mom and Dad, Dad stopped him immediately. "Alden, when we let you call us Mom and Dad as a child, it was because we were afraid you might feel like an outsider given your young age. Now that you know about your origins, you can treat us like neighbors from now on." Without any psychological burden, Ophelia and Alden left soon after. "Do you think they might have found out something?" Ophelia asked, holding Alden's hand. Alden looked at his wrist. "Don't go for blood draws anymore." But, seeing Alden, Ophelia held on even tighter. "I'll do whatever you say." "All right, Dad." Being capable of hunting exotic beasts, had been going to the city frequently lately and naturally learned the inside story about the blood draws. His expression turned even grimmer after hearing from Mom that Ophelia had come looking for him again to draw blood. "Not just anyone from the shantytown can go for blood draws. First, you have to pass the contamination test. Everyone knows there's no such thing as a free lunch." Some days later, news came that Alden had his legs bitten off by a mutated beast. Mom kept saying it was divine retribution, that he deserved it. Ophelia later came to visit the Alden family again. But the parents ignored her. Ophelia took good care of him at first, but her outings grew longer each time, leaving Alden often going hungry. Alden had saved up quite a few points himself. Half was spent on treating his legs, leaving plenty left, though he never let Ophelia know. After confessing about my psychic abilities, Dad finally took me out scavenging, but just a few days into our trip, I discovered Ophelia had run away. A gaunt little girl appeared by Alden's side, taking care of him. She was the youngest daughter of the Lucian family. Alden grew even more silent, sometimes with a terrifying look in his eyes. Meanwhile, in the scavenging team, I spotted Ophelia. She'd awakened speed abilities and had already joined the base's famous power squad, the Tiger team. Unfortunately, my dad and I are currently collaborating with this team. Seeing Ophelia, my alert level shot up to maximum. This woman can't be killed by ordinary means. And there are always men lining up to sacrifice themselves for her. This hunt won't be concluded quietly. When Ophelia saw my dad and me, she actually came over to greet us, but I was being petty and didn't respond. Maybe I'm just not cut out to play the protagonist who can please everyone. Just as expected. "Saul, this father-daughter pair aren't part of our squad. Are we sure we can trust them?" Saul wiped his pistol while gazing at the alluring Ophelia, his yellowed teeth bared in a grin. "Early-stage superhumans, this operation is significant. We'll need them." Ophelia docilely nestled into Saul's arms, massaging his legs and back for him alone. As a speed-type superhuman, he scouted ahead during missions. A capable individual, he distributed supplies openly and generously, though he never hesitated to scheme behind the scenes. His methods were subtle, never acting directly, which earned him good standing within the Tiger Squad. How terrifying, truly worthy of being a female lead. Without past life memories, I'd probably view Ophelia as favorably as the rest of the team does. It wasn't until we ambushed the wild boar herd that my psychic vision revealed Ophelia had changed the original rear defense plan into a frontal assault team against the boars. My publicly declared ability is initial level 1 psychic spikes, while my father claims initial level 1 fire abilities. In reality, both of us have reached 3rd level abilities. The Tiger team's captain Saul possesses 3rd level wind blades. I immediately reported the situation to my father. "Stay behind Dad later," since she dared to send a 1st level superhuman to the assault team. "Don't ask why the coordination is poor. Prioritize your own safety." As expected, when the assault squad saw our father-daughter duo, Deputy Leader Saul frowned. But he didn't say anything. Assault speed was crucial, and it was too late to replace personnel now. Seeing the wild boar herd as big as elephants, Dad and I stayed at the rear picking off stragglers. Mental spikes did help quite a bit, so the team didn't complain about our passive approach. After all, two novice superhumans charging to the front would just cause chaos and become easy prey. The assault squad quickly divided the boar herd and retreated. I constantly scanned the battlefield, seeing Ophelia and Althea, the sister of the tiger team captain, setting up traps. Unfortunately, a wild boar charges forward like mad. Under normal circumstances, Ophelia's speed ability might barely allow her to outrun it, but the boar suddenly appeared too close and charged straight toward Ophelia. Seeing no time to escape, Ophelia grabbed Althea and used her as a shield. Sister Ophelia, you. Ophelia quickly left the scene with her speed ability. Althea, with her earth-based ability, could withstand one impact, but a second one would be difficult. Just as Althea was in despair, my long-range mental spike made the wild boar pause for a moment, buying Althea some time to recover. I didn't go to rescue her, but immediately relayed the message to Saul. At that moment, Althea's distress signal was sent out, while the group rushed to the rescue at high speed. Althea managed to avoid fatal injuries thanks to the half-finished traps and my occasional mental spikes. Second brother. That Ophelia harmed me. Upon hearing this, it was indeed the Saul family siblings, righteous and intolerant of evil. Well said. Ophelia panicked internally upon seeing the distress signal. The battle ended quickly, just 15 wild boars, with only one adult and 3 piglets being edible, but judging by everyone's expressions, the harvest was decent. Energy stones, though this batch of boars had high pollution rates, their energy stone yield was remarkably high. These stones are crucial for upgrading superhumans. Saul gave a small piece to Dad as thanks for spotting Althea's danger and alerting them in time. We didn't see Ophelia on the way back, but through mental vision, Althea severed her tendons to keep her obediently by her brother's side. After his leg injury healed, Alden went to visit his parents again. The shantytown already knew that the Alden family had produced 2 superhumans and would eventually move into the city. 5. Seeing Alden lying on the ground crying bitterly, and that little girl, who was already pregnant, I suddenly felt that the man before me was terrifyingly selfish to the extreme. That woman Ophelia said drawing blood was your idea, was it? After Mom finished speaking, everyone looked at Alden. Alden suddenly stopped crying, his eyes chillingly calm as he left with the girl kneeling beside him. Celeste. He's looking at you with eyes full of hatred, when he was the one who tried to harm you first. What kind of look is that, Mom? He was always the type to bite the hand that feeds him, a heartless ingrate. He only put on this act after hearing that Dad and I became superhumans. He just never expected his honest, dutiful mother to confront him directly. The next day, I realized Alden was gone. The pregnant girl was left behind, but soon she was kicked out. Alden had sold the house. After Dad returned, the pregnant girl knelt in front of my parents' house, saying she was pregnant and couldn't raise the child alone. Are we some kind of scrap metal collectors? Do they expect us to raise another child for their family for free? No way. Keep dreaming. Dad hugged Mom to comfort her. Don't break your own heart. I'll bring Alden back. Alden was eventually found by the security team, but with one arm and one leg broken. At the outermost edge of the shantytown, a thatched hut was built, and that woman still went to live with him. It was later heard that the woman still died in childbirth. Alden raised the child alone, but whether due to the baby's nighttime crying or other reasons, mutated beasts broke into the shantytown outskirts, and Alden ultimately perished beneath their hooves. Our family moved into the city, yet we never once found any trace of Ophelia. Meanwhile, the tiger team was thriving more than ever, unwilling to give up. I carefully searched again but found nothing. It was as if Ophelia had vanished from this world. The more I used the spirit spring, the more I noticed that items exposed to it would gradually decrease in contamination levels, and even after prolonged disuse, the effect wouldn't reverse. Things kept improving continuously, as if the spirit spring was some kind of crucial factor. After reaching level 9 in spiritual power, another ability emerged. Mental concealment. Once activated, no one could detect my presence. I began bidding farewell to my parents to journey into the outside world. I headed toward the highest peaks of the mountains and the source of the rivers, leaving behind abundant spiritual springs. At first, when I reached human settlements, I would still search, but Ophelia seemed to have vanished. Yet, deep down, I knew she wasn't dead. As time passed, I thought of Ophelia less and less. I started meeting more and more people and seeing more and more landscapes. I enjoyed a freedom unimaginable in my previous life as a wandering spirit. The mountains and rivers seemed to cleanse my soul. 10 years later, I returned to the base, thanks to the nourishment of the spirit spring. My parents had another little sister named Althea. She awakened fire-based abilities at around 10 years old, and the whole family was very proud. I never told my family about the spirit spring. Perhaps they already knew something, but they never asked. After experiencing the warmth of home, and with my parents urging me to marry, I once again felt the urge to travel and explore the mountains and rivers. My father's abilities are now among the top in the base, and he has a group of loyal followers. There's a grand banquet this year, and rumor has it that the leader of the most powerful supernatural beings from the north will come for exchange, breaking the 500-year communication deadlock. Dad's supernatural ability has reached the peak of level 10, seemingly unable to advance any further. I'm also at the peak of level 10. I think this must be the world's limitation. The northern supernatural beings are all tall and mighty, but clearly, their highest ability is only level 9. It's not for other reasons. I suspect it's because of the spiritual spring. Even Mom doesn't know Dad's true ability level. He publicly claims to be only 9th tier, but his powers do overshadow others. With full confidence, I didn't witness the scenario from my past life where newcomers immediately took control of the base. At the banquet, with my short hair and fair skin, sitting quietly made me look like a porcelain doll. Many eyes were on me, including the ability users from the north. The northern leader actually came over to propose a toast. "Your short hair is adorable. Hello. I'm Ronan." Out of politeness, I nodded, unaware that this made me appear even more well-behaved in others' eyes. The more Ronan looked, the more he felt the girl before him was elegantly refined. I don't know why, but I just feel like I've been waiting for you for a long time. My lowered head jolted as if struck by lightning, staring in disbelief at the man before me. Was this the last phrase I heard before rebirth? The man of overwhelming power. Instinctively, I began extending my psychic energy to cover the entire base. "Ophelia, she has reappeared." She was actually behind the banquet, still making a cake. She added something to the cake and was staring at it with an eerie smile. I quickly got up and left. I just didn't expect that a pair of hands would stop me. Hearing the man's voice and feeling his touch made me nauseous, and I couldn't hold back from vomiting. My parents hurriedly took me away, after I told my dad about what happened in the kitchen. Ophelia was caught and screamed that she was innocent. However, she was forced to eat all the cake she had made herself. Seeing that nothing happened, they still let her go. 3 hours later, Ophelia died in a small corner of the shanty town, bleeding from all 7 orifices. I kept my eyes on the group coming from the north. Compared to my previous life, I arrived here much earlier, and many things have become different. However, this group didn't seem as united as they appeared. In my past life as a wandering spirit, I was in a daze and unaware of many details. Taking advantage of my level 10 mental concealment, I continuously monitored Ronan's group. When they left the base, I drove a large number of mutated beasts to surround them. Concealed in the shadows, a full-force mental spike lashed out at Ronan. The next instant, an unknown force dissipated the attack, causing the mental spike to kill the person beside him instead. Seeing the failure, I immediately left the scene. Is this the male lead? Just like Ophelia, unkillable. I returned to the courtyard at home, and soon after, received news from the base's spies. Ronan and his group have returned, looking disheveled, but they must have obtained something valuable. Soon after, I bid farewell to my father. I left a letter for my parents and younger sister before departing the base. Following them closely, I witnessed a farce unfold before my eyes. Ronan gazed sorrowfully at the young man on the ground who bore a 70% resemblance to him, his face filled with grief. The people around were indignant, eager to cut down the young man immediately. "Chief, although Dash is a member of the Nan family, someone who shows no regard for familial bonds is utterly unworthy of being called your brother." A crowd began jeering. Finally, Ronan left with a parting remark. "You'd better watch your step," before hastily departing with his entourage. Had I not witnessed the entire incident from the beginning, I might have actually believed that nonsense. Watching Dash lying unconscious in a pool of blood, blinded and on the verge of death, I felt no pity in my heart. Though not as ruthless as Ronan, this man was still cruel by nature, but since he bore a blood feud with Ronan, I decided to save him. Upon learning he was saved, Dash immediately kowtowed several times with loud thuds, until I stopped his bleeding forehead with a wooden stick. His eyes remained uncured, which was my deliberate choice. Like my younger sister, this Dash chattered nonstop along the way, spilling every detail of his background. The difference was, while my sister was genuinely naive, this kid was faking it. From the moment their group arrived at the base until they left the city, they were under my psychic surveillance. There was no way the conduct of these two brothers could escape my notice. What Ronan snatched from Dash was actually the core of a special mutated beast. Strangely enough, it contained a faint trace of purifying power, remarkably similar to the effects of my spiritual spring. Unfortunately, after consuming it, Ronan's cultivation level actually dropped by 10%, causing great panic among the group. They rushed the vehicle day and night to return to the northern base. In her previous life as a wandering spirit, Dash had never encountered him. Back then, The Nan family of the Northern Base only had Ronan as their sole heir. In truth, Dash was the legitimate child of the Northern Base's official wife. Ronan was merely an illegitimate son brought in from outside, whose arrival caused the real wife's death from anger. The filth of those people couldn't be hauled away even by several trainloads. The North is a land I've never set foot in. Dash and I rode mutated beasts all the way to the Changbai region. Dash seemed to sense something. Sister. You really are sending me home. Not receiving my reply, Dash continued speaking as usual. This is where I obtained that mutated crystal core, right here, at the summit of Changbai. 6. All along, Dash had thought that the reason I saved him was to interrogate him about that secret he stubbornly refused to reveal. Even when Ronan poisoned and blinded him, it still didn't make him talk. My psychic energy swept forward and quickly detected something unusual. The underground palace was teeming with densely packed people living inside. Pretending not to notice, I tugged the reins of the mutated beast and continued on my way. As usual, he went out hunting for prey to satisfy his hunger. On the 8th night, the figure in the darkness finally approached Dash. After examining Dash and administering some unknown medication, the man squatting before him spoke. Lior, someone came with a token and has already diverted part of the army. Liu and the others have defected. Riven, none of Father's people can be trusted. Dash lay flat, black liquid streaming from his eyes. They say even a vicious tiger won't eat its own cubs. I crouched on a tree a kilometer away, listening to their secretive murmuring until my legs went numb. Time to head back. A fat rabbit as big as a pig had a bloody hole in its head. I leaped down and dragged the rabbit back. Saul, that woman is back. Another person emerged from the woods. Young master. I'll head back first. There's really no need. Saul made a throat-slitting gesture. Dash pondered, then shook his head. The traces near Dash quickly vanished, and silence reclaimed the surroundings. I knew the kid's eyes would recover soon, and I had no interest in playing any mind-reading games with him. Since you're almost home, let's part ways here. The roasted rabbit ribs tasted surprisingly tender despite the rabbit's aged appearance. Dash paused mid-bite of the rabbit leg. His expression resembling an abandoned puppy. At 15, though tall, his face still carried youthful innocence. He bore a 70% resemblance to the former male lead, yet with an added scholarly grace. Truly the most striking poisonous youth I'd ever seen. Is sister leaving? I hummed in agreement and kept eating. What's the use of me going back? My whole family wishes I were dead, and since I'm blind in both eyes, I'm truly just a useless burden who can't help sister. It's only right that sister should leave. I nearly spat out my mouthful of rabbit meat. Listen to what he's saying, as if I've done something wrong. So picking you up means I have to raise you too. Just a moment ago you were trying to slit my throat, young masterin. I picked up another piece of rabbit steak. Looking at the nearly bare bone in Dash's hand, still want some, if not, forget it, eat. Dash reflexively reached out. Throughout this journey, only by saying no would this girl truly not indulge him. I split half the rabbit steak with Dash, keeping the most succulent part for myself while he polished off the rest. The two of them, full and satisfied, rested under the shade of a tree. The snow beast only appears in winter. The Changbai Peak is most beautiful during winter. I know what this kid is implying. It's just strange why this person is so complicated and conflicted. Wouldn't killing me be the perfect solution? Next time I act, I won't have any qualms. What a pity. Sigh. How many snow beasts are there on Changbai Peak? Judging by the circumstances, they must be quite rare. Otherwise, this young master wouldn't have just one in his possession, only to have it snatched by his brother. If he were more like his brother, he wouldn't have ended up in this situation. Perhaps this was the real reason I saved him. He showed at least some semblance of moral boundaries. All those Spirit Spring barbecues along the way weren't fed in vain. I left the day before Dash regained his vision. The north was vast and expansive, a landscape I'd never seen before. However, I didn't distribute Spirit Springs everywhere as I used to. Ronan still left me with unresolved feelings. Every year I'd visit the northern base to see if he'd died yet within 5 years. The northern base still fell into Ronan's hands, though it happened earlier and in more dire circumstances than in the original storyline. Without the food and supplies previously controlled by Ophelia, the people of the northern base suffered severe exploitation. Moreover, their power was suppressed by smaller bases, unlike the absolute dominance they held in the previous life. Meanwhile, Dash concealed his identity and maintained control over a small base's decision-making power. Year after year, he subtly drew population away from the northern base to the Changbai base. Dash never remained idle. His abilities progressed from level 6 all the way to level 9. This was his limit. The poison administered by Ronan would have prevented him from reaching level 9 had he not consumed several meals of Spirit Spring barbecue. Despite his extraordinary talent, when he broke through to level 9, I thought Ronan's days were numbered. However, the small bases that had raised forces capable of rivaling the northern base still held their ground without taking action. Seeing the scene of the base residents living and working in peace and contentment, my anxious heart finally settled. There will come a day when he dies. I followed the snow beast deeper into the mountain range. I don't know if humans have ever set foot here before. However, there were many animals I had never seen. The further we went in, The fewer the mutated beasts appeared, even when present, they weren't as ferocious as those outside. As long as you didn't attack them, they wouldn't assault humans like the mutated creatures in the outside world. As we kept walking, I felt I had reached the highest point of this world. Even with a level 10 superhuman physique, I could never have made it here without the snow beast shielding me from the wind and snow. In the underground river cave, I saw a continuously bubbling spring. Only as big as a bull's mouth, trickling outward endlessly, the snow beast was lapping at the spring water below. Suddenly realizing, I scooped up some spring water and took a sip. Having only consumed spirit spring water for years, I immediately recognized this was nothing but spirit spring water diluted 1,000 times. You brought me here on purpose. I looked at the highly intelligent snow beast before me. The other person gazed at me with moist eyes, remaining silent. I spotted another adult snow beast, and the two greeted each other with unusual affection. The two large heads drank from the spiritual spring welling in my hands, then gestured for me to follow. Over 3 years, I observed the increasingly familiar mountains and surroundings. Wasn't this the very place where I'd left spring water in the southern base area? A large number of snow beasts gathered together. Other animals were leisurely strolling near their respective territories. Observing the vegetation by the river, I noticed dramatic changes compared to my first visit. The edible probability of fruits and plants is extremely high, becoming more evident the closer one gets to the river, particularly in the snow beasts gathering area. The pollution rate is lower than other animal-dominated regions. However, these snow beasts are absorbing surrounding pollution, though minimally, requiring generations to remain in one territory to produce faint effects. This group of snow beasts has now migrated southward, likely drawn by the spirit spring. The return journey followed an S-shaped route winding through mountains, slow-paced yet fascinating, until a pair of pregnant snow beasts headed once more toward the Chambai Peak. An incredible thought surfaced in my mind. These snow beasts originated from Chambai Peak. But why? To test my theory, I followed the snow beast couple northward, along the way. The pregnant snow beast passed through every area where I had left Spirit Springs, feeding on wildflowers and fruits from different mountain ranges, continuing steadily north. As they journeyed, the mother snow beast's belly grew larger. After 3 years of pregnancy, just days after nearing the bowl-shaped Great Spring, a young snow beast was born. The snow beast couple exhibits strong maternal instincts, only allowing my approach when I offer Spirit Spring water. I also discovered why the snow beasts returned, simply because this place has the vegetation that their young need. I returned to the northern base, this once dominant stronghold of the north that's now being gradually consumed by surrounding smaller bases. Unexpectedly, Ronan's reputation was so terrible that he became universally despised by all northern commoners. The gloomy, obese middle-aged man still clings desperately to his power, yet hardly ever steps outside. The northern base is nearly deserted. Those who could leave have all left. Ronan finished the drink in his hand. Vermin, whether from some sudden thought, the glass container in his grip was smashed to pieces. The recent tax revenues are barely enough to cover a month's expenses for the estate, let alone military expenditures. We've been running deficits for years. Someone had the audacity to turn my affairs into nursery rhymes spreading among those low-born wretches. Expanding the army requires funds. Isn't raising taxes justified? How dare these peasants resist? Someone, anyone. The debauched body, coupled with the surge of anger, made Ronan dizzy. The attending guards and maids had already been whipped into unconsciousness by his madness the previous day. No one came to save him. The news of Ronan's death quickly spread, and the 3 major bases soon took over the entire northern base. What was expected to be another battle for supremacy turned out to be the voluntary submission of the leaders of the 2 smaller bases to the Chambai base. From then on, the Chambai base became the sole ruling power of the northern base. At home, Lior, also known as Dash, listened to his subordinate's report. "Chief, the snow beast has appeared again." Lior looked at his longtime comrade Riven, whose temples had already turned gray. Level 10, that was the lifelong pursuit of an Esper. Snow beasts were rare. Lior still remembered the tears shed by the snow beast he killed. It didn't resist, completely overturning his impression of mutant beasts. That's why he never intended to use that special crystal core, until his elder brother discovered it and snatched it away. That elder brother of his was truly unkillable. After so many years, he finally managed to get himself killed. Just as well, saves me the trouble of dirtying my own hands. Still no news of her, young master. That woman always kept her face covered. There were some who looked similar, but none of them were her. I understand. You may go. Yes, the crowd withdrew. At the summit of Chambai Mountain, the little snow beast was exceptionally lively and playful. I took it to find flowers to eat. In the distance, a group of well-equipped infantry marched toward the Chambai Snow Mountain, big chubby white. "Someone's looking for you. Hide quick." Little snow beast stayed silent, just kept nibbling on flowers. I heaved a long sigh, wondering how such a creature, intimidating at first glance yet utterly simple and kind-hearted, had survived till now. Darting swiftly toward the crowd, a psychic barrier halted them in their tracks, clapped hands, and was about to leave when a voice came from behind. "Sister." A figure appeared in the mental vision. It was Dash. You're here to hunt snow beasts. I didn't deny it. Just stared at this man who had changed so much, from beginning to end. I never knew what this person's special ability was, even after observing him secretly for so long. Yes, the man smiled gently, as if only a few days had passed instead of several years. I couldn't do it. A man who had held high positions for years had undergone earth-shaking changes in both demeanor and appearance. To me, Dash was just a stranger. How long will you stay here, sister? Oh. I've taken my mother's surname now. I'm called Lior. The northern base is very safe now. You're welcome to visit when you're free. Lior's eyes sparkled. I didn't respond, continuing on my own. To advance to level 10, you'd need at least 1,000 snow beast cores. Right now, the snow beast population number's only about a dozen. Consuming them wouldn't increase your level. It would actually make your ability level drop. I looked at Lior. You should be grateful it was your elder brother who consumed the cores back then, otherwise, you with your level 6 ability would have stayed at level 6 forever. Don't tell me you didn't know. Hasn't Ronin's ability shown no improvement for years? Once the purified energy enters the human body, it requires continuous replenishment of purification power. Only after eliminating the body's contamination will it positively feed back to the person's special abilities. Snow beasts possess the ability to purify the environment. Although the process is lengthy, it represents hope. Killing them brings no benefits whatsoever. As the base leader, I presume you wouldn't engage in such a losing proposition. Lior heard this news for the first time and looked at the girl before him. How did you know about this? I stared at the man before me, no longer calling me sister now. Truly a wolf cub grown into a big bad wolf. His nature never changed. I've lived with the snow beast for 11 years, 5 years around Chanbai Peak, 6 years on the road. I crossed my arms. Talking with this guy remains as difficult as ever. The other person froze slightly. Sister, have you been here all along? I've been looking for you. Seeing his slightly reddened eyes, I stepped straight back. Was this kid going to latch onto me? Men are such trouble. Acting all sentimental when there's no shortage of women around. What a joke. I've made myself clear. If you continue, I can't stop you alone. I'm leaving. Oh, and your wife is beautiful. Cherish her. With that said, I quickly left. I no longer paid attention to what was happening at the foot of the mountain, just whipping the 3 plump white bottoms wriggling ahead with a willow branch, striking the thick fur. It didn't even ripple. Hurry up, hurry up. If someone comes to kill you, I won't be able to stop them. Don't be stubborn. There's plenty of spirit spring at home. I live there now. Would I lie to you? Several years later, the water level of the spirit spring in the space had dropped significantly as it continuously gushed up because of me. A transparent spirit pearl emitted an intoxicating fragrance. I seem to have realized something. Splitting the spirit pearl yields exactly 5 fragments. Over these years, following the snow beast across the world, we've visited all the sources of flowing water. Precisely 5 locations. As I placed the final fragment at the springhead of Chanbai Peak, my dormant supernatural ability that had been inactive for decades suddenly clicked. The restraints of this world dissolved. Story 2. When I was 5 months pregnant, our house was scheduled for demolition. My husband threatened me with the child to go back to my parents' home and ask for money. I unexpectedly agreed right away. My husband was overjoyed and didn't notice at all that a runaway transport vehicle was crashing towards him. After being hit and sent flying, my husband lay in a pool of blood and pleaded for help from me. Lila, save me, save him. In my previous life, in order to save him, I lost my child and was also hit by a car, resulting in paraplegia of both legs, but he used me to kill my parents. In just 20 days, the terrifying doomsday of extreme cold will arrive. This time, I'm going to watch him die. 1. My husband Grayson forced me to go back to my parents' home to ask for money because he didn't want to go to work anymore and wanted to start a business. Since my family's house had just been scheduled for demolition, he had his eyes on the money my parents received from the demolition. On the street, he slapped me. It's just asking you for such a small amount of money. Do you have to be so stingy? When I succeed in my business and make a lot of money, will I be short of your little bit? If you don't agree, we'll get a divorce. And I was already 5 months pregnant. Grayson seemed to be certain that I wouldn't dare to oppose him. I refused with tears in my eyes. He grabbed my hand and was about to send me back to my parents' home. He ignored the traffic lights and directly crossed the road. Suddenly, a car came towards Grayson and me. Seeing this, I immediately stopped crying and quickly stepped aside. Suddenly, bang. It was the joyful sound of the car hitting someone. Grayson's body bounced a few times on the ground and finally fell to the ground. Bright red blood flowed out from his body and spread outward. At the same time, he stretched out his hand and pleaded for help from me. Grayson's face was horribly injured, with many wounds on his body, and he couldn't even utter a complete sentence. He really looked pitiful, so I gave him a bright smile, waved my hand, which was like saying goodbye to him. picked up my bag, and turned around and walked away quickly. After walking a few steps, I looked back. Grayson's face was filled with despair, collapse, and a strong desire to survive. When he saw me looking back, there was a glimmer of hope in his eyes. I smiled at him again and turned around and walked even faster. Oh, right, I just forgot to tell my dear husband, I've been reborn, too, in my previous life, in order to save Grayson. I lost my child and was also hit by a car and became paralyzed. I thought he would treat me well, but he used me to control my parents, snatched the newly bought house from my parents, and used the demolition compensation to buy a large amount of supplies. In the weather of -70°C, Grayson's family enjoyed delicious food and a good life with the things from my family, but they threw my parents and me out of the house, leaving us to freeze to death, in order to protect me. My parents gave me all their clothes, but the weather was too cold. Really too cold. I watched them die with my own eyes. After making an appointment for the induced abortion surgery, I directly rushed back to my parents' home. As soon as I opened the door, I saw my parents sitting on the sofa, eating snacks and watching TV, looking at their cheerful and healthy appearance. They were completely different from the haggard and weak look in the previous life. Dad, Mom. Tears welled up and streamed down my face. I kept apologizing to them. I apologized for my stupidity in the previous life and for the tragic end we had. Seeing me like this, my father quickly walked towards me. Lila, what's wrong with you? It's such a cold day. Why are you wearing so little? Are you cold? Or did Grayson bully you? Dad will stand up for you. My mother quickly took off her clothes and draped them over me. It's almost below zero now. Why are you wearing so little? Even if you don't think about your child, you should think about yourself. Listening to these familiar words of concern, I wanted to say that I was okay, but as soon as I opened my mouth, all that came out were sobs. Suddenly, the phone at home rang. It was Grayson's parents, my in-laws. As soon as the call was connected, I heard Grayson's mother yelling frantically, Lila, where are you? Where the hell are you? My son was hit by a car so badly that he's almost dying. Why aren't you by his side? Why wasn't it you who was hit by the car? Why didn't you die? Grayson's father ordered imperiously, hurry up and bring 200,000 yuan to the hospital. Grayson needs to have an operation. Hurry up and come, do you hear me? For, my father couldn't stand it anymore and angrily questioned them. What kind of attitude is that? How dare you scold Lila as if you were training a dog? She's still pregnant. Pregnant women can't be agitated. Don't you know that? Grayson's father and mother were used to being overbearing in the countryside. After being brought to the big city by their son, since I was respectful and filial to them, they thought I was easy to bully. From time to time, they would say such things to the neighbors and relatives. My son is amazing. Without asking for the bride price, he can make a girl from the city marry him willingly and even bring a house and a car as a dowry. Every time, they would be flattered by others. At the same time, I would receive more cold looks and contempt. Now, I snatched the landline phone and shouted loudly, I want to divorce Grayson, and I won't keep the child in my belly either. I'll find a lawyer to talk to you tomorrow. Suddenly, there was silence on the phone. Grayson's parents were probably stunned. They never expected that I, who had always been easy to control, would dare to resist like this. The next moment, unpleasant curses came. They cursed my ancestors for 18 generations and used all kinds of insulting words related to organs. My parents, who had been decent people all their lives, were completely stunned. They looked at me in surprise. My tears slid down from the corners of my eyes, and I lowered my head in shame. Yes, due to my good family background, I was cultivated to have a kind but stupid personality. In the face of the malice from Grayson's parents, I had no ability to deal with it. Seeing me like this, my parents felt extremely sorry for me. They quickly said, divorce, definitely divorce, Lila. You're still young, you'll have children in the future. Sure enough, my parents supported me unconditionally. With tears in my eyes, I smiled. Just then, Grayson's parents were tired of cursing. They heard me say, the car and the house are all my premarital property. I know Grayson bought a small house for you. I'll send someone to pack your luggage and send it to you. After saying that, I hung up the phone. I physically blocked their swear words. 5. According to the development in the previous life, in at most 20 days, the whole world will enter an ice and snow world. The average outdoor temperature will be -50°C. A large number of animals and plants will be frozen to death. The rivers will freeze over, and the power system will collapse. And because of the cold weather, a large number of people, due to the lack of heating facilities, don't even have the chance to barely survive and will be frozen to death. The feeling of being frozen to death is really terrible. I didn't hide anything from my parents and told them everything about the previous life one by one. After hearing this, they were not angry but instead cried and hugged me, saying, Lila, you've suffered a lot. You've suffered a lot. Hearing these words, I couldn't hold back anymore and cried bitterly in my parents' arms. After that, we decided to renovate this house and stock up on supplies and food by the way. My father used his acquaintances to buy a large amount of food with a long shelf life. My mother found a large number of relatives from her natal family and went to the house I bought before marriage to throw out the things of Grayson's family and take away all the things in the house that could be eaten, used, or keep us warm. I rented out the house at a rock-bottom price, renting it to a group of idle people in society. After having the abortion, I didn't rest. I contacted the decoration workers and, in the shortest possible time, transformed the house into an excellent greenhouse that can withstand cold and heat. 6. After being busy for several days, my father showed off to me the 10 tons of supplies he had bought, which included rice, flour, cooking oil, daily necessities, cotton-padded clothes, snow-proof clothes. I counted them and still thought it wasn't enough. I contacted the pharmacy and found their superior distributor. I bought more than 100,000 yuan worth of medicine from the distributor, including various types of medicine. I also went to the hardware store and bought all kinds of snow-clearing supplies, house repair tools, self-defense and protection tools, and also replenished several air guns. Since it's not very feasible to plant plants at home due to the cold weather, I bought various plant nutrient solutions to facilitate hydroponics. I concentrated my efforts on building the basement and transformed the basement into a safe house with strict protection, strong heating performance, and good air circulation. This is the last resort, and no one knows about this basement except me and my parents. During this period, I anonymously posted news about the ice and snow doomsday disaster on various websites and forums. Most people didn't take my words seriously. Instead, they reported me many times, causing the content I posted to be constantly blocked and deleted. But at the same time, a small number of people echoed me in the comment section and seriously discussed the feasibility of my words. They expressed their gratitude to me and immediately went to prepare for stockpiling goods and keeping warm. I thought of the national institutions I could contact and sent them anonymous reminder messages, listing all kinds of disasters from the previous life one by one to remind them. They might regard me as a madman and directly ignore me, but as the disaster worsens in the future, they will take measures according to the information I anonymously posted. After all, in the previous life, the country actively carried out rescue work. It's just that Grayson was too vicious and killed me and my parents early on. 7. Soon, in just one day, the temperature dropped sharply by 20 degrees. Snowflakes were flying all over the sky, landing on the houses, trees, and the ground, creating an ice and snow world. I looked down from upstairs. If it were just for enjoying the scenery, the scene was really beautiful. Unfortunately, once this pure white world started, it would be difficult to stop. Suddenly, someone called me for a video call. As soon as I answered, I saw Grayson lying on the plank bed. His eye sockets were sunken, and he looked haggard and thin. His head was wrapped in gauze, indicating that he had suffered a great deal. On one side, Grayson's parents were trying to rush into the house, but they were driven out by the tenants I had found. Grayson's father shouted, "Who are you? This is my house. What are you people doing in my house?" Grayson's mother resorted to her rural way of doing things. "I see. You are Lila's lovers. Come and see this shameless wife of mine. Her husband had a car accident, and she still has the mood to mess around outside with so many men." Hearing these familiar words, my eyes were cold. I directly said, "I'll waive the rent for this month and next month for you. The only requirement is to teach them a good lesson, but don't cause any deaths." As soon as the other party heard this, they happily agreed. In the video, several gangsters immediately started to tease Grayson's mother. Some tried to pull off her clothes, and some touched her face. "Hey, Auntie's face is so tender. It feels really good to touch. Why are you wearing so much? I can't even see your figure. Take off your clothes and let me touch you." Grayson's mother was frightened and shouted, and she quickly stepped back, crying for help. Seeing her like this, both I and the gangsters laughed. "Ha." I said, "Auntie, you must be at least 70 or 80 years old, right? Brothers, go get a mirror for Auntie to take a look and let her have some self-awareness." Grayson's mother was furious. She was so angry that her whole body was shaking, and her fingers were trembling. She couldn't even utter a complete sentence. In the previous life, I had heard a lot of such unpleasant words. If Grayson's mother couldn't stand it herself, why did she have the right to hurt others? I spoke again. "There's still one lying on the stretcher. He has a good appearance. Don't forget about him." Hearing this, the corner of the other party's mouth twitched. I increased the offer. "I'll also waive the rent for next year. In fact, with the coming of the ice and snow doomsday, unless it's for survival supplies, almost no one will go out, not to mention collecting rent." 8. The gangsters received the order. While speaking lewd words, they went to take off Grayson's clothes. He was already seriously injured, and the outdoor air was cold. When the quilt and clothes on his body were pulled away, he shivered from the cold. He wanted to struggle and take back his clothes and quilt, but he was so severely injured that it was already a great fortune for him to be alive. He could only watch himself being humiliated, unable to resist, and freezing, and tears of grievance streamed down his face. Ha! Seeing this scene, I laughed happily. In the previous life, Grayson, who lived off his wife, was both inferior and arrogant. He resented the fact that he had once relied on his wife and transferred all his hatred to me. What he liked to do most was to take off my clothes and commit all kinds of. When I was paralyzed, I cried and begged for mercy, but I had no power to resist, and my self-esteem was submerged in humiliation. But the more I was like this, the more excited Grayson became. He even stripped me naked and threw me into the snow. When I was almost frozen to death, he pulled me back and put clothes on me as if he was showing kindness. Now, Grayson was naked, even though he was seriously injured. It didn't stop him from shivering. The hands of the gangsters lingered on his body as if they were fascinated by his body. I heard them say, "Wow, the skin is so tender, white and nice to touch. I thought he would have some meat on his body. But he's actually a skinny guy. He's too thin. It would be better if he were a bit fatter." Right, come on, smile for me, and I'll take a photo of you too." As more and more unpleasant words were spoken, Grayson roared, "Hey, Mom and Dad, don't stay here, let's go right away." 9. Grayson thought he could leave soon, but after waiting for a long time, what he got was the silence of his parents. Grayson's father said in a low voice, "After all, this is our house, and there are still a lot of things in the house." "That's right, son, you're seriously injured, and you've spent all the money in the family. Your father and I are doing this for your own good." Grayson couldn't believe it. He stared at his parents fiercely, but the two of them turned their heads aside and didn't look at him. After that, there was another argument. I didn't let up until I had my fill of watching. The gangsters threw out the things of the other party, which were scattered all over the ground, and then swaggered into the house. Bang, with a sound, they closed the door, which also shattered Grayson's sensitive heart. I closed the video and turned on the surveillance camera outside the rented house and saw Grayson's family in the surveillance. On the stretcher, the quilt had fallen to the ground. Grayson's upper body was naked, and his pants were pulled down to his knees. He was at the mercy of the cold air and had no power to fight back. His parents were busy packing their belongings and tidying up. Completely ignoring him, tears streamed down Grayson's face, one after another. He really looked pitiful, so I specially took out a bottle of red wine and poured myself a glass. 10. On the side, my parents called me to have a meal. Outside the house, the ice and snow were desolate, and it was all white and silent. Inside the house, the fireplace emitted a warm yellow light, and it was very warm. My parents smiled and pulled me to the table. We were having hot pot today, with fatty beef rolls. Fatty mutton rolls, pig intestines, beef tripe, shrimp paste, with my father's special dipping sauce. Listening to the cheerful background music, I enjoyed my delicious food. After eating for a while, I saw that it was snowing again outside. It's minus 10 degrees Celsius outside the house now, and the snow is ankle deep. When people step on it, there will be a rustling sound, but even so, compared to the future, these are already relatively comfortable days. Somehow, I took my parents' hands, put on our cotton-padded clothes, and took all the necessary protective measures. We went out together to have a snowball fight. My parents took care of me and didn't dare to attack with all their might. This really gave me an advantage. My parents looked at me like a child and laughed. Suddenly, I saw my father put his hand into his bosom and take out a small camera. He clicked several photos of me, just like when I was a child. My eyes suddenly felt a bit sour. My parents had once advised me that Grayson was too good at pretending, and as a young student at that time, I had too little experience and was carried away by idle dramas and love, so I chose him without hesitation. I deserved to be treated so miserably by that scumbag, but I shouldn't have involved my parents. On that day when the temperature was minus 70 degrees Celsius, my parents took off their clothes and covered me with them. The two of them hugged me tightly. Even though their bodies were shaking and they couldn't even utter a complete sentence, they still kept comforting me. They said, "Lila, don't be afraid. With your father and me here, we will protect you. Yes, we will protect you." Now, with a smile on my face, big tears streamed down from the corners of my eyes. When my mother saw this, she quickly stepped forward and said, "You're currently in the period of recuperation after an abortion. You can't cry during this time either. It's not good for a woman." I grabbed her hand and motioned for my mother to make a V sign with me. My father smiled and urged, "What are you standing there for? Hurry up, your daughter is waiting." Later, I took many more photos with my parents. 11. Just overnight, the temperature dropped by another 10 degrees. The power and water supply in the house were cut off directly. Fortunately, my parents and I were well prepared and weren't greatly affected. We used a diesel generator to generate electricity, and the whole family continued to watch movies and eat snacks at home, enjoying ourselves. Somehow, I took out my phone and turned on the surveillance camera in Grayson's small house. I installed these cameras originally because I considered that Grayson's parents were old and I was afraid that they might fall and get injured without being able to save themselves in time. Driven by filial piety before Now it has become a tool for me to spy on their lives. In the narrow 40-square-meter house, there were things piled up everywhere. Grayson's parents were huddled together on the bed, wrapped in quilts and thick clothes, but they were still shivering. They kept cursing. This damn weather and the power outage are just like murder. I'm going to complain about them. I must complain about them. I frowned. Because, where was Grayson? I adjusted the direction of the surveillance camera and looked down. I saw Grayson huddled on the stretcher. His face was blue and purple from the cold, as if he were dead. He was wearing the down jacket I bought for him. Even though he was seriously injured, he had to huddle up and shiver to keep warm, and the quilt that was originally on him was now being used by Grayson's father and mother to wrap around themselves. Moreover, his cheeks were completely sunken, only a little better than a skull. He was so haggard that he didn't look like a human being anymore. 12. Suddenly, his stomach growled. Grayson said, "Mom and Dad, I'm so hungry. Please give me something more to eat." What greeted him was complete silence. I found it interesting and watched even more intently. Sure enough, without me and my parents as the ones being taken advantage of, once the supplies were in short supply, the ugly true colors of Grayson's family were completely exposed. Grayson's father and mother didn't respond. Grayson said a few more words in a low voice. And then he started making a big fuss. "I'm hungry. I'm almost starving to death. Give me something to eat. Hurry up and give me something to eat." Grayson's father casually picked up something and threw it at him. He aimed well, and Grayson's forehead turned red. "What are you eating for? You useless thing. You couldn't even keep a woman. Now you're in this state and can't even give me a grandson, with only so few things at home. You still have the nerve to grab the food rations of your mother and me." Grayson's mother didn't say anything, but her expression clearly showed that she had the same thought as Grayson's father. Grayson's father continued to curse. "Your mother and I are already at this age, and we might even have to have another son for you. Now it's cold, and there's only so much food at home. If your mother and I ruin our health, who will take care of you for the rest of your life?" Grayson always regarded his parents very highly. He was seriously injured in a car accident, and with the cold weather and his parents' neglect, his injuries became even worse. Now, hearing these words, he felt that he had been abandoned by the whole world and shouted, "Then why should I still be alive? You kill me now." 13. I watched Grayson making a scene. And I saw Grayson's father and mother getting out of the warm bed. The two of them picked up the stretcher one after another, seemingly planning to send it outside the house. Grayson was scared and kept begging for mercy. "Mom and Dad, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Don't treat me like this. I'm begging you, don't treat me like this." His father and mother were indifferent. Their faces were dark, and they seemed to have decided to throw Grayson outside and let him fend for himself. Suddenly, Grayson cried even louder, and he almost wanted to kneel down and beg for mercy. Grayson's father slapped him and then relented and pulled him back into the house. "You behave yourself. We're keeping you alive now so that you can go and settle the score with that bitch Lila. Get more money so that we can buy a car and a house for your future little brother." Seeing Grayson crying so miserably, I thought I would be happy, but I only felt scared. Thinking carefully, there were many ways that Grayson used to torture and abuse me, which were actually taught to him by Grayson's father and mother. It turned out that they did it on purpose, to take revenge on me for having an abortion and for making them lose their grandson. 14. In the following month, the outdoor temperature got lower and lower. The national power system was basically completely paralyzed, and the power had been cut off for a long time. I calculated the time. The large-scale national rescue should arrive in half a month, as long as we can hold on for half a month, just half a month, at a temperature of minus 70 degrees Celsius. There were no people coming and going anymore. Suddenly, late one night, my phone rang. I answered it in a daze and heard a shout like a ghost seeking revenge. "Lila, it's me." I suddenly sat up in shock. It was Grayson. He was back, listening to your voice. "It seems that you're fine. Good. Then I can rest assured, Lila. Take care of yourself. I'll come to settle the score with you soon. You've hurt me so badly. I'll definitely pay you back 10 or 100 times over. I'll break your bones one by one, make you watch your parents kneeling in the snow and trembling to death, and make you wish you were dead." I didn't finish listening. The shadows of the previous life kept reappearing in my mind. I directly hung up the phone, but my body couldn't stop shaking. Death, cold, danger, humiliation. These things kept lingering and reappearing in my mind. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. I shouted in surprise, "Who is it? Who is it?" "Lila, it's your mother, your father," and I heard you shouting. "Did you have a nightmare? Dear daughter, open the door quickly. Did you have a nightmare? Or is the window broken? Or were you woken up by the cold again? Can you open the door and let your father in to take a look?" 15. My parents kept talking one after another, and their words full of worry kept ringing out, dispelling the fear and shadows in my heart. I kept telling myself that I had been reborn. I had been reborn. I put on my clothes, got out of bed, and opened the door. As soon as the door opened, my parents quickly came in and looked me up and down. Only when they were sure that I was okay did the two of them heave a sigh of relief. My mother said she wanted to stay and sleep with me, and my father said he would sit outside the door to protect me. I laughed and instead had the thought to coax the two of them and let them go back to their room and sleep obediently. Sitting back on the bed again, there was more determination and courage in my eyes. It's better that Grayson was reborn. This way, I can more justifiably avenge the grievances and repay the hatred. I opened the surveillance camera again and saw Grayson's father, who had his throat cut, lying in a pool of blood and struggling continuously. Grayson's mother was crying and shouting for her husband, trying to stop the bleeding, but she was kicked down by Grayson, who was as thin as a skeleton. Grayson pointed the tip of the knife at Grayson's mother and asked, "Mom, do you still want to have another son?" No, I don't want it anymore. I don't want it anymore. Grayson, I know I was wrong. Your father and I shouldn't have treated you like that. Son, spare me, spare us. I'm your mother, the one who gave birth to you, raised you, and brought you up. Woo-woo. Grayson's mother cried bitterly, and Grayson laughed, laughing happily. He pressed down on Grayson's mother's head with one hand and stabbed down with a knife, cutting her throat again. Grayson's mother fell to the ground, covering her neck with both hands and twitching continuously. Watching all this, I covered my mouth in fright. Suddenly, Grayson turned his head and looked towards me. No, to be precise, he looked towards the camera. He had discovered it. I heard him say, and his voice was clear, "Wife, don't worry, I won't miss you. I'm coming to find you right away." The next moment, black and white noise appeared on the screen. I understood that the surveillance camera had been destroyed. 2 days passed, and there was continuous wind and snow every day. There were few people walking on the road. Another 5 days passed, and helicopters flew over the sky from time to time. Drones began to shout in the air, "Attention, residents, attention. Residents, the National Rescue will arrive soon. The National Rescue will arrive soon. Recently, there are criminal groups extorting money. Please pay attention to protection. Please pay attention to protection." Since I couldn't watch TV, I quickly turned on the radio. Connecting to the local radio station, I indeed heard several tragic incidents. There was a group of adult men with tools like machetes. They targeted single households and carried out robberies and brutal killings. They had already committed many crimes successfully, and the direction of their crimes was extending towards the southwest, and my home was in the southwest direction. The incident that night woke me up. I quickly told my parents, "Don't pack anything. Hurry up and go to the basement. We need to go to the basement now." My parents trusted me completely and didn't have the slightest doubt. 17. Unexpectedly, we entered the basement during the day, and before evening came, the front door was violently broken open by a group of people. The person who entered the house first felt a wave of warmth and directly shouted, "Damn, it's so warm here. Yeah, there's so much food here too. The supplies are quite abundant. Having money really makes a difference. You can act arrogantly on normal days, and even in this apocalyptic situation, you can still live better than ordinary people." Why is that? Exactly. I almost starved to death, if it weren't for Grayson. We would have been finished long ago. Grayson had become much gloomier, even after a month of recuperation. The car accident still left its marks on him. He walked in with a limp, leaning on a crutch. He looked around at the warmth and comfort of the villa. He raised his crutch and smashed the decorative vase hard. "Search, catch the people. You can do whatever you want with them, as long as you leave them alive for me." This group of men let out unpleasant lewd laughter and ran into the house very skillfully, rummaging around upstairs and downstairs. The more they searched, the more surprised they became. There was no other reason. The layout of the house was too comprehensive, and the supplies stored here were enough for people to use for 10 years. They searched high and low but still couldn't find me and my parents. Grayson was so angry that he started smashing things around. His subordinates quickly stopped him. The villa was so comfortable that they didn't want to leave. If it was destroyed, it would be very difficult to find another place like this. 18. Through the electronic surveillance, I saw this group of people treating my house as their base camp. The supplies that my parents and I had painstakingly stocked up were wasted casually by them, and they didn't cherish them at all. Grayson still had his doubts, but they searched the house inside and out 4 or 5 times and didn't find the slightest place where people could hide, so they let down their guard. During the day, they drove out in some snow-specific vehicles that they didn't know where they got. In the evening, they came back with different supplies. At the same time, the clothes on their bodies were stained with blood. At night, they started boasting and bragging. One said he had killed a few more people, one said it was the easiest to chop off a child's head, and one said that a mother and her child had shouted very loudly. Haha, these people were constantly breaking my bottom line of perception every day, until one night, they dragged back 3 people, 2 women and 1 man, who all looked like minors. These people stripped the clothes off the girl and the boy and pushed them in front of Grayson. The leader of the group smiled obsequiously. "Come on, Grayson, you go first." Grayson probably thought of what had happened before and angrily hit the person with his crutch. The person who was hit wasn't angry. He even said who would go first and who would go later in front of the victims. The boy and the girl knelt on the ground and begged. But the more they begged, The more the group of people laughed. 19. Seeing all this, I gritted my teeth and endured it again and again. Suddenly, in the surveillance video, one of the girls struggled and stood up. She wanted to escape. Grayson threw his crutch and hit the girl's leg. She fell to the ground. Grayson walked over with a knife, grabbed the girl's hair, and just like how he dealt with Grayson's father and mother, he directly cut her throat. This scene made the other girl and the boy scream in fright. And they kept shaking, and the remaining beasts shouted and some even clapped their hands. Grayson is awesome, amazing, amazing. He really lives up to his name. After that, they started to do something to the remaining boy and girl, because the scene of the death was too tragic. The two were so frightened that they even forgot to resist. When humiliation came, the darkness suddenly descended and engulfed everything. Damn it, there's a power outage. Ah, screams rang out. One person was in pain and directly fell to the ground. Grayson reacted the fastest. He actually had a flashlight on his back. The flashlight was turned on, and the light illuminated the place. Someone was lying on the ground with a bullet hole in his forehead. The people present couldn't hold it together and directly screamed and shouted, "Someone's been killed. Help, Grayson, help. There's someone here. There's someone in this house. Where are they? If you have the guts, come out." "Where exactly are you?" 20. The air guns kept firing, taking the lives of one beast after another. During this period, Grayson even pulled one of his subordinates in front of him to block the attacks, and he managed to avoid danger. But his flashlight was broken, and his subordinates were all useless. Because of the boundless darkness, their fear was magnified, and this also gave me the opportunity to save people. I took the boy and the girl away during the chaos, after entering the basement. I took off the night vision goggles on my head. When the two saw me, they shrank back several steps in fear. I took a step forward to comfort them, and they trembled even more. It was my parents who appeared. Their kindness and gentleness seemed to give the boy and the girl a sense of security. After confirming that they had been saved, the two knelt on the ground and thanked my parents and me. My parents had been kind-hearted people all their lives, and they instinctively asked about their experiences. The two of them started crying immediately. Their parents had been killed. They had witnessed lives passing away one by one before their eyes, and they had almost lost their dignity and become lowly playthings. My parents comforted them. 21. Suddenly, there was a crashing sound. This time, I didn't even need to look at the surveillance to hear Grayson's shouts, "Search! Search for me! That bitch Lila must still be here, Lila. You're really patient. If you have the guts, hide for the rest of your life. Let's see if I can't kill you." Probably because several people had died, these guys became even more ruthless and no longer regarded the villa as their warm base camp. They started demolishing things violently everywhere. In less than an hour, they found the door to the basement and went in directly. When they saw the scene in front of them, they were stunned. "There were more than 10 times the amount of supplies here compared to upstairs," someone exclaimed. "Goodness, how could this woman hoard so many things? Yeah, with these things, why should I go out? These are enough for me to use for several years." This vicious rich person hid here and enjoyed the good life while watching us go out to work every day. I picked up a wooden stick and hit him on the head. On the other side, my parents subdued 2 of them, and the 2 children together also knocked out another person. For the moment, it seemed that we were safe. The girl and I spoke at the same time. "No, let's go quickly." A tear gas bomb was thrown in, and the smoke spread out, blocking our sight. 22. My parents were reluctant to let me take risks. They went out first, but Grayson took the opportunity to catch them. I came out with the 2 children. When I saw my father lying on the ground and my mother being controlled by Grayson, I clenched my fists in anger. My parents advised me to leave them alone. "Lila, don't worry about me and your mother. Hurry up and get rid of this beast. Grayson is no longer human. He won't show you any mercy, even if we risk our 2 lives. We can't let this scourge go out and kill again." Seeing this scene, Grayson's eyes turned red immediately. He elbowed my mother on the back of her head. My mother winced in pain and fainted directly. My father let out a loud howl. Seeing this, I quickly said, "Don't you just want my life? I'm right here. You can do whatever you want to vent your anger, but let my parents go." The more I said this, the more proud Grayson became. He seemed to be certain that everyone present would be dead, and he didn't care about what he said anymore. "Lila, do you know what I went through in my previous life? It's better to be dead than alive. You really got off easy in your previous life. You died so early. And you and these 2 old things' worthless lives actually made me go to jail. Why should I go to jail? Those beasts in prison. Forget it. Let's not talk about them. Anyway, they're all dead at my hands. Lila, it's all because of you. It's all your fault that I've been so miserable in this life. You even made me a cripple. We have to settle the scores of 2 lifetimes. 23. Suddenly, all my doubts were cleared up. In my previous life, Grayson was just a man who lived off his wife. The most vicious methods he could think of were actually told to him by his parents, and that night, Grayson was so cruel and ruthless to his parents, he didn't hesitate to slit their throats. He looked very experienced. I started to mock him and hit him where it hurt. It seems that you've been played with many times, which is why you're so angry. Come on, tell me, how many times were you played with? By how many people? Sure enough. Grayson was still so sensitive and inferior that he couldn't stand being provoked at all. He let go of my parents and rushed towards me, grabbing my neck tightly. I couldn't breathe, my eyes were bloodshot, and my hands and feet struggled, but it didn't do much good. Grayson seemed to like seeing me like this. His hand kept exerting force, and his palm gradually closed. Lila, you, His hand loosened, and I fell to the ground, gasping for breath. I looked up and saw the two children taking turns attacking. Their faces were clearly filled with fear, but their expressions were extremely determined, one with a stick and the other with a knife. They knocked him unconscious to the ground. Grayson was covered in blood all over his body and face. He seemed to have returned to the day of the car accident, stretching out his hand and crying for help from me. Looking at the struggle and the will to survive on his face, I smiled and said, "Drag him outside the door, while it's still cold, teach him a lesson." No, I had just forgotten to tell my dear husband, I was reborn. The two children were not soft-hearted at all, they were very quick. Grayson was getting closer and closer to the door, and the despair in his eyes was getting deeper and deeper. His eyes were filled with confusion, and he opened his mouth and said, "Why, I was clearly reborn, I'm the chosen one. Why is this happening to me?" 24. The two children were afraid that Grayson hadn't suffered enough. One was responsible for continuing the revenge, and the other went to strip him of his clothes. They didn't spare the people in the basement either. I wanted to help, but they were afraid that I would get tired and just advised me to rest. Those beastly executioners were all thrown into the snow to receive the punishment of the earth in the temperature of -70 degrees. The next day, the sound of the drone rang out again. Attention, residents, please line up and turn to go out and receive supplies. Don't push or scramble. There's enough for everyone. Hearing this, the two children cheered happily, but in less than 30 seconds, their eyes turned red with sorrow. In less than a day, or rather, in less than 15 hours, perhaps their fates would be completely different. The state's assistance was fully implemented, and the losses of the common people were reduced a lot. My parents adopted the two children and donated most of the supplies at the same time, and they received commendations and praises, probably to set an example. My parents became role models. At the same time, the two children and I sorted things out and told all the evil deeds of Grayson and the others. They became typical examples that everyone hated. The name Grayson once became the most vicious curse word. And what my parents didn't know was that I had two warehouses, both of which were filled with supplies. I also donated the things in one of the warehouses anonymously and left myself a way out. After the lessons of my previous life, if I encounter an accident again, then my adventures will be rewarded and reciprocated sufficiently. The two children, the people I risked my life to save, after passing my test, have proven to be good children with a sense of loyalty and righteousness. I think that if I were to encounter misfortune, then they would surely remember my kindness and treat my parents well, and the supplies in the warehouse I left behind are the biggest and final reliance for my parents and me in this icy apocalypse.